Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. If you're new, please hit the subscribe button and click the notification bell so you'll be notified every time I upload a new video. In today's video is episode 11 of Vegan and Fit series. We're gonna talk with Mitch, which is a vegan coach. We're gonna talk about how he actually fight and beat a cancer diagnosis, and he actually got rid of his achy and swollen joint. So we're gonna talk with him on how you can still make a change even in an older age. And yeah, he will share with us tips and tricks how to do so. So I'll see you at the end of the video and enjoy. Hello.
Hey Marfisia, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Doing good, doing good.
Good. Thank you so much for joining me today. Is really amazing to hear all your story and have a bit of overview of your background, your transformation, and your job, because you help lots of people to do exactly the same or what you did years ago, where you started years ago. So if you want to introduce yourself, and yeah, we'll start to introduce yourself, a bit of your background, and then we'll go with all the questions and the topic.
Okay, sounds good. My name's Mitch Khan. I exist on Instagram at Mitch Khan Fitness, and I've been a trainer for 12 years. It's sort of a retirement career for me. I've been doing online training for a little less than a year. I started when COVID hit.
Yeah.
But my journey started, even before I became a trainer, because I was 75 pounds overweight and knew I needed to make a change. And I lost the weight, got healthy, got fit, and that sort of led me into becoming a trainer and helping other people.
That's amazing. So how long ago you actually transitioned to a vegan lifestyle and a plant-based nutrition?
That was a little over 5 years ago, probably about 5.5 years ago.
Okay. So why did you take that decision and how did you approach this change? What makes you actually think about, oh, maybe I can fix my health issue for a plant-based diet?
Well, I knew eating plant-based was the right way to go, and for several years before I went vegan, I was pescatarian. Um, but I was diagnosed with prostate cancer, and I was talking to my brother about it, and he had a friend who had prostate cancer, and he said, "You need to talk to him." So I got on the phone with him, and he said, "You really have to go fully plant-based." He said, I basically have gotten rid of my prostate cancer by following Dr. McDougall's diet, the starch-based diet. And that got me to the point where I spoke with my wife and told her the story. And literally overnight, we went plant-based, fully plant-based.
Oh, wow. Okay. So how did you start to approach your nutrition? What did you change first? It was through like taking off animal product or just substitute? So give me a bit of overview how you transition.
Well, I was pescatarian, so it was really just stopping eating fish.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, and that was actually easy. The harder part was going from originally being a really heavy meat eater and eating a lot of junk food, um, to getting rid of that. And that took a little bit of time.
Yeah.
Um, but then I realized that it really wasn't, and this is what I tell my clients too, it really isn't the meat itself that people like. Um, it's really the seasoning and the spices that people put on their meat,
True.
that really gets them going on eating meat. And so, and I tell my clients this too, and I live in an area that's very meat oriented,
Mm-hmm.
the southern part of the U.S.
Yeah.
A lot of fried food, very unhealthy eating around here.
Yeah.
Um,
Imagine.
but once I realized about the seasoning, the spices, and that I could put that on other foods and create sort of um, a way to duplicate it without eating the meat, it became a lot easier.
Yeah.
And it's interesting because my older son, who's 36, about a year ago, he went for a physical and had high blood pressure and high cholesterol.
Yeah.
And he's thin, so he's not even overweight. Um, so we talked about him going plant-based as well.
Yeah.
And while he didn't go fully whole food plant-based because he eats a lot of processed vegan food,
Yeah.
he still, when he went back for his next physical, his blood pressure and his cholesterol had gone back to normal. So
Yeah. Yeah, when they actually say that food is medicine, is so true, isn't it? I mean, we can really reverse and prevent disease or health issue in general through diet. So that's amazing that we can do that. And if we all understand how, and they actually is possible, because not many people they actually believe that it's possible. Yeah, it would be amazing, really, to prevent it. So physically, so what did you start to see the changes? Physical change and then other changes. So what did you notice first?
then I just felt better overall. Um, I didn't have bloating anymore. I didn't have digestive issues anymore.
Yeah.
Uh, I would wake up in the morning and my joints would be sore. My joints would ache. I had some swelling, especially in my ankles and my feet, and
Mm,
that all disappeared. So it and that happened fairly quickly too. Um,
yeah.
so I was really pleased with that. And I deal with another health issue as well from years of eating poorly. Um, I went for my primary care physician sent me for a coronary artery calcium scan, and that basically measures plaque buildup in your arteries.
Yeah.
And the ideal score is 0. Well, I scored over 1400,
Wow.
and obviously puts me at risk.
Yeah.
So they sent me for a stress test, and I've passed 2 stress tests over the last several years with flying colors, and they tell me that I'm I'm in really good shape for my age, comparable
Yeah.
to people who are quite a bit younger than me. Uh, and they tell me it's a combination, and I know it's a combination of eating plant-based and my exercise routine. Um, so I deal with that too. So I'll always have that. I'll always be at risk for that. But as long as I maintain, my exercise routine and the way I eat, um, they they tell me I should be fine. And I truly believe that, and I agree with that too.
Yeah, because you definitely feel the change. It's not just that you can actually see it, but you feel that you change overall. So
Yeah.
yeah, amazing. So on your training, did you change anything, or did you see maybe that your performance did increase? What change did you see in your training routine?
I really saw it in the recovery. Um,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
so so up until recently, when I hurt my back not too long ago, so I'm trying to avoid back surgery. But and that was from probably the last 10 years of heavy lifting. But um, the recovery from heavy weight training that I did uh, was literally phenomenal. I could have trained if I wanted to. I could have trained 5 days a week, and
Yeah.
I needed to give my joints a rest, so I didn't. But yeah, literally, I felt great the next day after a workout and felt that I could have gone back and lifted again. Not that that would be the greatest thing to do, especially as you get older, and especially for your joints. But that was the biggest thing I noticed.
Yeah, I must say that that's one of the things I noticed too. As soon as transition, I actually was pescatarian too, to be honest. So I just took off everything else, eggs and all dairy, everything else, and then fish was the last thing that I took off. And I honestly did see a huge improvement in my recovery. Like I remember after leg day, I used to stay maybe 3-4 days on really bad dumps, and then after transition, like not even like in 1 month or 2 months, I just seen that how quick I could recover, and yeah, so much better. So I definitely relate to that. So when you transition, what do you think it was the most challenging thing for you regarding nutrition, I would say? So did there is anything that you find it was just difficult to, yeah, to change, to swap perhaps?
Knowing that I needed to do it for my health, it wasn't that anything was really difficult, because when I put my mind to doing something, I just do it. But I have to say, early on, because I had eaten so much meat over my life and really enjoyed it, that there were times that I missed, if we'd go to a restaurant and you're used to ordering a big steak or a slab of ribs or whatever the case may be. I missed that for a little bit, but not for that long, because there's so many different alternatives. I mean, we make hamburgers or meatloaf out of lentils. And we use some seitan and tempeh for other mock meats, so don't really miss it anymore. And now that it's been over 5 years, it's really easy. There's not even an urge to be pulled back into that world.
Yeah, I think sometimes just because in general change scare us, sometimes it's just more about thinking that's gonna be hard and difficult. They actually it is in reality when you actually try it. But because we're thinking about, oh, that's a huge change, that's so much that I need to go through and take away, we just overwhelm ourselves, and we make it even harder than it is. So yeah, definitely that. So around like your friends, family, did you add support around that? Or did you maybe add someone that might think, oh, diet will not change your condition, will not change your health problem?
Well, my wife was fully on board, so she went plant-based at the same time I did, just to support me. So that made it easier, and it was just the two of us at that point in time, because our kids had grown up and moved away. And even when my younger son and his wife and our granddaughter live not too far from us, so if we even go over there for dinner, my daughter-in-law will prepare food for us, plant-based food for us, even though they're not plant-based. So yeah, it's good.
Yeah, that's amazing, especially because now there is so much resource out there that we can really learn anything about the basic list of nutrition, how we can swap things, how we can just make homemade alternatives, because that's one thing that when you do swap for health reason on a plant-based diet, it's really important that you definitely have more whole food alternative than actually ready meals or already packed meals in general. So that's one thing that nowadays is so easy to do, because we have all free like resource, maybe YouTube or wherever, like we got it now, which before it would be more difficult than actually transition, just because there was not much information, there was a lot of myths around, not getting protein and all the other stuff that we all know, right? So for you, a balanced meal, how should it look like? What do you prioritize in your meal to make sure it's balanced?
Well, I make it as easy as possible. So
Yeah.
I make myself in the morning a protein smoothie, and I've done that through the whole time I've been plant-based,
Yeah.
and it has everything in the kitchen sink in there. So I make that with unsweetened soy milk. Um, I put in white beans. I put in kale. Put in an apple. Um, put in a lot of berries and various spices like turmeric and amla powder, vegan protein powder, and the list goes on and on. I mean, it makes like 64 ounces. And I have that, and my wife and I share that. We have that
Yeah.
every morning. For
Yeah.
lunch, we typically, before COVID hit and I was running back and forth to the gym, I would always have a bowl of oatmeal for lunch,
Yeah.
with some fruit on top or whatever. Now that we're both home, uh, we've gotten a little more creative, so we'll have a soup or a
Yeah.
salad or something. And then we meal prep our dinners. So on Sunday, we'll spend about 2 hours or so prepping dinner for the week. So we'll eat the same thing literally throughout the whole week, and it just makes it easier. So um, last week we had, for just as an example, whole wheat pasta with a marinara sauce, and we bought um, Italian sausage Satan crumbles, and
Yeah.
we had like different vegetables in there, artichoke hearts and whatever, and we had that for dinner with a salad. Um, this week we're having just a big salad, uh, topped with chickpea salad on top of a bed of lettuce with a whole bunch of different vegetables. And
Yeah.
so we make it easy. People think that it's, you got to make these complex recipes that you find in a lot of the vegan cookbooks. And to me, those are great for special occasions. But if you think about even the times when you weren't vegan, you didn't make special meals all the time. You had your go-to, and
Yeah.
you would eat the same thing pretty much throughout the course of the month. And then on special occasions, you'd make something special.
Of
And
course.
that's the way we look at it too.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, meal prep is, I think, especially when you want or trying to lose weight, is the key, right? Because you haven't got no temptation that goes on the side just in case your meal is not ready or anything else. I mean, batch cooking in general is really ideal and is the key, I think. So, of course, because one of your goal was to losing weight, uh, it was like just a byproduct by going vegan, or you counted calories around it.
No, I've never been a big calorie counter. Um,
Okay.
and when you know, at the start of my weight loss journey, I weighed 265 pounds, and
Okay.
I'm 6 feet 1 inch. Um, I've now maintained that I weigh about 195, so I lost about 70 pounds or so. Um,
Wow. Amazing.
and I've maintained that for the last 12, 12, 12 plus years. Um,
Wow.
when I first started losing some of that weight, I still wasn't vegan, but I I really changed my eating habits and created better habits that I still use in my coaching because I apply to vegans too. Um, and then I lost my last 20 pounds, 25 pounds when I went vegan and or plant-based, and
Yeah.
it I could tell the difference because it actually happened quicker
Okay.
Those 20 pounds came off quicker than the other 50 some pounds. Took me a much longer period of time.
Yeah. Do you think it's because like plant-based protein is leaner than actually meat? And in general, food is just easier to digest, and everything else. Or what do you think is the reason? Because it was just easier.
Well, that's an interesting question because I just put out an Instagram post about that, and I think it boils down to calorie density of plant-based foods. And plant-based foods are nutrient rich, but they're low in calories. So you can eat a lot more and not gain the weight.
Yeah.
And in the post, I pointed out that, a pound of potatoes is like 300 some calories, whereas a pound of cheese is like 1,300 calories. And
Yeah.
I've heard this all the time. I heard this in the past a lot from from clients who weren't plant-based. They couldn't give up their cheese. And,
Right.
I've always made, the case that one, it's a lot of calories, it's mainly
Yeah.
fat, and, the fat you eat is fat you're going to wear. And,
Yeah.
they say, well, I can't give it up. Well, you can't give it up because it's got a case of morphine in there that basically causing you to be addicted to it.
Yes,
Uh,
exactly. Yeah.
yeah, so, but yeah, I think it boils down, going back to your original question, to me, it boils down to eating nutrient dense but low calorie food that's, just healthier for you. And
Yeah,
you
definitely.
don't
Yeah.
have to count calories. You don't have to, count macros. Um, and not that there isn't a place for that,
Yeah.
but to me, it's more a tool that I'll have my clients maybe count calories for a few days because most people don't want to do that anyway. Um, so count calories for a few days, more just to build an awareness
Mm-hmm.
of what you're putting in your mouth or what you're putting in your body, and that's it.
Yeah, yeah, I definitely agree with that because I always say that it does depends of the client. Where is the start point? What knowledge has around food? Because if someone has a basic, but they cannot just give up maybe chocolate and calcium food, it's got like around knowledge around nutrition, I wouldn't count calories. But someone that hasn't, maybe for the first week or two, I will always say, look, just let's put it down everything because then you actually realize how much calorie you get in. And in that way, then when we cut back, you actually know why we do so. Because the important is just realizing why we do it and why we take that step towards the fat loss in general. And I
Exactly.
do actually definitely agree with the fact that we just get more society with plant-based food, so it's actually easier for us to keep it full, and that's why maybe weight loss is just easier, because if we do have maybe enough kind of chickpeas and then half of a steak, of course the chickpeas will have more volume, will keep your satiety, fibers there, everything is just easier to make sure we're full. So
Exactly.
definitely I always say to make sure we all know there's calories in and calories out in the end. That's, we cannot trick that, but it's how we do arrange and balance them calorie that does make a difference if it is sustainable or not.
Exactly.
Of
Exactly.
course, but yes,
And that's
definitely.
also, and it's also, the approach I take with my clients too is that don't deprive yourself of things that you want to eat because you're going to end up resenting the
Yeah.
fact that you can't do that, and that's going to sort of be a negative in terms of impacting your progress. So it's okay to, I don't want to use the word cheat, but it's okay to sort of go off plan a little
Mhm.
bit
Yeah.
and, just forgive yourself and come back on plan and push forward again. Um, and that to me is easier. And then you mentioned fiber. Fiber, to me, the fact that plant-based foods are full of fiber and typically, especially fruits and vegetables, full of water, those are going to satiate you so that you don't get hungry. And
Yeah.
then all the benefits that fiber, give to the gut microbiome, are doing wonderful things there in terms of creating, beneficial bacteria to help, all your digestion and everything else that the gut controls.
Yeah, absolutely. I always say that because not many people, they actually believe that meat, dairy, and all the other stuff, they're not meant to be eaten by human, let's say, dairy, digestion, all the other stuff. But even if you don't believe in that, we can all agree that water intake that is coming from vegetable and fiber is already making plant-based diets more healthier than animal product diets. Only that, it will just make sure that we are eating and ingesting in a healthier way, because we have help from all that water and fiber to make sure all the enzyme and all the other stuff, we have a balance in our body. So it's really, really interesting because, yeah, not many people believe that, but of course, like I said, you always see an improvement of digestion. Maybe in the beginning, if you do eat a lot of maybe beans and all the other stuff, of course you will feel a bit fuller, because if you're not used to ingest all the fiber, it's normal, right? That we have a bit of discomfort and all the other stuff. But overall, in the end, we all see like huge progress in our digestion and all the other stuff, of course, related to that. So apart from, of course, losing weight and all this stuff, did you see any changes, for example, because I have with my client like sleep, mood, all the other stuff around it? Did you see any different on that?
I definitely had more energy all the time.
Yeah.
By a lot, because I used to drag. I used to want to take a nap in midday.
Yeah.
And now, now being older, I still sort of am bouncing off the walls. So I have a lot of excess energy. So
Yeah.
that to me was a big plus. And feeling better overall. I mean, when you walk around and you're, it's like the 70 pounds that I lost, if I took two 35-pound kettlebells and held one in each hand and walked around with that, you do that for a short period of time and it wears you out. But then you think about, okay, well, I was carrying that around in my body and doing that all the time. Well, of course,
Yeah.
I was going to be sluggish and I was going to feel like crap. And once that's gone, it makes a tremendous difference. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. There was actually a question about that. Let me see if I can find, because I did ask my followers if they had any question for you, and
Sure.
there actually was quite few. So one of that it was, let's see, because let me find it. Okay, so was asking to how to not be scared to change nutrition in later age. So I would not be scared to change nutrition if we get older, because we stuck in the habits that we did for life.
I sort of operate with the mantra that it's never too late to do anything.
Yeah.
And I equate that to, there's research studies where they've worked with people in their 90s who
Yeah.
have lost all their muscle mass, and they start them on a lifting program, with 1-pound dumbbells, and gradually
Yeah.
over time they increase the weight, and these people in their 90s regain muscle mass. And if they can do that, because as we age, we're losing not just muscle mass, but we're losing density in our bones too. And you can combat that with a combination of a plant-based diet and exercise. And exercise doesn't mean you have to go into the gym and lift, do 300-pound deadlifts. It can just mean moving around and walking more and being less sedentary in your life. So I operate with that motto, and I've worked with people as young as 10, and I've worked with people as old as 80. And one of
See.
my one client that I'm particularly proud of, although he's not plant-based, his wife is trying to get there. He came to me at the age of 77, had a stroke. And when he walked into the gym, he was heavily reliant on a cane, walked with a really severe limp.
Yeah.
And I've worked with him now for the last 2.5 years because he just hit 80, and he's regained mobility and has been able to really resume a lot more active life. And his wife says all the time to people, Mitch saved his life. And this was after he came out of physical therapy. So it can be done. Anything you want to do, you can do at any age. And I wouldn't let age scare you off for
Yeah.
anything.
Yeah, definitely. I definitely believe that. And yeah, I mean, eating the right amount of food, the right kind of food, and training is huge at any age. But of course, when we get older, of course, we just need to take of ourselves, and we can definitely do so through training. Oh, I think I lost you. 2 seconds. Oh,
Yeah, I hear you. There you
okay.
go. There you go.
The
Yeah,
screen maybe just went, yeah, that's all. So definitely it's never too late. So for the guy that actually asked that question, I would definitely, yeah, say to maybe DM you, and then you can talk through and see
for
if you
sure.
can help him. Why not? Of course.
For
So
sure.
I have another question for someone else. Okay, so what about habits? How do you change habits?
So that's something that you have to work at. And people will say, well, you can change it in 14 or 21 days. And it depends what the habit is. So
Yeah,
some habits you can change fairly quickly. Some habits take a long time. But instead of looking at it as changing habits that you've had, especially if you think they're bad habits, just work on creating new, better habits.
love it.
And
Yes,
and
yes.
and you have to practice it. So, part of my coaching program is building healthy habits, and you have to practice it every day. So, if you take the game of basketball, if you put somebody on the free throw line and tell them shoot a free throw, well, most people, if they haven't played basketball, aren't going to be able to do it. But then you see the professionals, and they'll put the ball through without even hitting the rim. How did they do that? They practice it, and they practice it for hours on end over the course of many years. Now that's a hard skill to learn. So I'm not saying all habits are going to take that long, but you want to get it to the point where it's as automatic as brushing your teeth. And you can do that by tying what you're going to work on for like a habit that you want to create, tie it to something else that triggers you to do it all the time. So let's take brushing your teeth, for example. Balance, which older people have an issue with, can be trained, and you can improve your balance. So what I tell my clients to do is when you brush your teeth in the morning, stand on one leg while you're brushing your teeth. In the evening, stand on the opposite leg while you're brushing your teeth. Well,
Yeah.
over time, you're going to improve your balance. And it's tied to standing there while you're brushing your teeth. So you're going to do it because you brush your teeth every day. Most people doing it. So yeah. So,
Yeah.
but you sort of tie it to a trigger that's going to cause you to do it all the time.
Yeah, that's amazing. Yeah, I mean, I do actually believe that. having a new habit is like a skill. You just develop that skill of keep doing the same thing every day, and it just become your new normality, your new routine. So it just
Exactly.
I love the fact of just learning something else instead get rid of something else, because mentally as well it just gives you more of a push to make that step forward, because we always scared to take away something that we did or we had for a long time. So mentally it's definitely better to go on that building a new instead get rid of the old. Just because our mind just works that way, and yeah, it's just easier, I believe. So yeah, definitely. So let's see, because I have another question. Okay, so how do I avoid judgment from no vegan people? Oh well, oh well.
There's always going to be haters that are going to
Yeah,
make fun of you. Uh, so I'm not sure you can avoid it, but you can tune them out. And sometimes it requires, not all the time, but sometimes it requires that you surround yourself with different people. Um,
yeah.
and and again, I've told this to, I recall having several weight loss clients, female weight loss clients, and they lost a considerable amount of weight, and they worked out, they they learned to love exercise, and they created a whole new body for themselves from being, 180 pounds of basically fat to, 130, 140 of lean muscle. And not that they look like a bodybuilder, but their body totally changed. And I remember them talking to me and saying that their girlfriends that they hang out with were now standoffish because they resented the fact that they had improved themselves. And my comment back to them was, well, sometimes you need to get new friends. And I know that's easier said than done, but you don't want to surround yourself with negativity. It's not worth the time, and it's not worth the headache. So I I tune it out. I mean, when I was working in a gym, I was probably the only plant-based eater for 20 miles around.
Yeah.
So so I would always hear that. And it made no difference because it was something I believed in, and I was determined to do. And it was interesting that when I finally left that gym, there were probably 10 to 15 people who, just by talking to me off and on the gym floor, had become plant-based eaters.
Oh, amazing.
Yeah, so it it's tune them out, don't listen to them, and you maybe have to find some friends who want to go on the journey with you. I mean, that's important to have that support.
Yeah, actually, there was a question about like vegan community. How important is to surround yourself on a vegan community? Like to surround with, yeah, it's important. Yeah.
Yeah, very important, very important. And there's a lot of and and there's some vegan haters too, because
Yeah.
you go on some of the sites and people are fighting with each other, and it's like,
True.
why are you fighting with each other? I mean, you
Yeah.
both believe in the same thing. Um, but yeah, there are some good online vegan communities where you can interact with people. Um, some of the communities here in the U.S. will have groups
Yeah.
of vegans. Um, some will even have like monthly dinners. So
Oh, wow.
if you can find something like that, and you get to sample what people make, um,
Yeah.
and make some new friends too. So
Yeah, that's amazing. There is quite, yeah, lots of UK groups around this area, but they are like virtual group, and actually that they do meetings, actually with, yeah, gatherings of stuff. But like nowadays, there's definitely more support out there because for one reason, or for the animal, or for the earth, or for the planet, there is lots of people that are going on that way of transitioning for one reason or the other one. And now as well, there is so many of documentaries and all the other stuff that they are like on Netflix, on platform that everyone just watch. It's not like just vegan targets, because like before, I remember that you just have to search for like vegan website or vegan community resource to actually get and watch them documentary and stuff. But now it's out there, and everyone at least can have that knowledge and then take that decision if they want to. But
Yeah.
before there wasn't that. So maybe it was just, yeah, like you have to really want it to actually take that step, which now there is a bit more of a push in that way to if someone really wants to make that change. So
Oh
last
yeah.
question
Yeah.
for me. Do you like to say something to someone that it just maybe thinks that they can reverse any disease through a plant-based diet, but they don't know where to start?
Yeah, the best place to start really is to, probably go to some of the websites or buy some of the books
Yeah,
and get a feel for it. There's a couple of great documentaries that you might be able to watch on Netflix. Um, Game Changers or Forks Over Knife come to mind. Um, and there's several others too. Um,
yeah,
and that's what I did. I mean, when my brother's friend said, you have to go plant-based, I immediately went and I bought a bunch of books and started reading them.
yeah,
And I already had about 4 nutrition certifications, but none had never been specific to plant-based eating. So I
yeah,
went and I got a certification in plant-based nutrition too. Um, and I'm sort of a lifelong learner, so I love to learn new things. So it was fun for me, and I still buy books, that come out on plant-based nutrition and plant-based health, just to stay up to date what's going on and hear what other people have to say. Uh, there's some good podcasts out there.
yeah.
Uh, they can watch your show. Uh,
Thank you.
uh-huh. And so I think the resources are out there to learn. And if you can find a plant-based physician, that's really good too. Because, I have a friend who's a plant-based family practitioner here in Nashville. So he and I are just friends. I don't go to him as a physician, but, we talk quite a bit. But the cardiologist that I go to, because of my coronary artery calcium score, I went to him because he's a plant-based cardiologist,
Yeah,
and and that helps because he's going to give you, or that type of doctor is going to give you better advice from a plant-based perspective.
yeah, yeah. Definitely. Yeah, definitely have a support there. That's, yeah, life experience. So if they are themselves, of course, it would be easier. So thank you so much for joining me today. I'm sure that all the followers and people that will watch, they will learn a lot from this episode. Thank you for sharing all your background and experience with us. Thank you so much again. It was lovely to chat with you. Thank
Yeah,
you.
I enjoyed it. Take care,
Thank
Marfisia.
you. Take care. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Welcome back everyone. I hope you enjoyed this episode, and if you have any question, please pop it below. If you want to see any guests or you have any other question for me or the guest of this episode, you make sure you comment below. Making sure you subscribe, you click the notification bell, and I'll see you next week with a new episode. Bye!